And there she is.
Live and in color.
Representative Bartlett, we're just getting started and Pam is getting us hooked up to the live stream.
You are ready to go.
Thank you. So welcome everyone to our hearing or our meeting on our interim study bills. Today we're taking up 7 of those bills and tomorrow 8 of them. Bear with us as we manage this process. It's obviously a little different and new. And as I'm sure all of us know, these are not votes that are going to move the bills forward or to kill them. It's just going to make a recommendation, either to recommend a bill for future legislation or to not recommend it for future legislation. A statement will go into the calendar to that recommendation, and there will be no vote from the House on that statement. So this is the final piece of dispensing or managing the bills that have come before us. Let me do the opening script. As chair of the House Commerce and Consumer Affairs Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are, with provision A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the committee and select staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting by clicking on the following website address, https://zoom.us/j/99708430633, or dialing one of the following phone numbers, 1-312-626-6799 or 1-929-205-6099. Provision B, providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using Zoom or telephonically. This information is printed in the House calendar. Provision C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please call 271-3600 or email at hcs@leg.state.nh.us. Provision D, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. I want to introduce the staff that are on the meeting assisting us. Pam Smarling is the meeting host. Additional staff providing support are Christina Dyer and Brad Greenland. This is a work session on bills referred to the Commerce Committee for interim study, and we're going to have a discussion on each individual bill and exec that bill after that discussion, rather than exec all the bills at the end of the meeting. Copies of the interim study bills have been posted on the main page of the General Court website under the heading Remote Meetings. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. And our clerk today is Representative Weston. And let's start the meeting by taking roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during the meeting, which is required under the right to know law. That's the end of that little speech. Representative Weston?
Okay. Vice Chairman Williams.
Oops, but take your, mute your.
Why has it got an echo?
Yeah.
Did you hear me?
I did. So
It's
I
better.
am present. I am in my home, and my cockatiel is in the room with me, and she may decide to weigh in on any of the bills.
Thank you. Representative Gidge, not here. Representative Abel,
Representative Abel is present in West Lebanon, and I'm by myself.
Representative Bartlett,
Unmute.
unmute.
Sorry. I am present and I'm in my home in Concord and there's no one else in the room.
Representative Herbert, not here. Representative Macbeth,
Representative Macbeth is present in her home office in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and she's alone.
Representative Van Houten,
I'm present. I'm in the study in my Manchester home and I am alone.
Representative Fargo,
I'm present. I'm in the study of my home in Dover, New Hampshire, and I'm alone.
Representative Indruk,
I am present, calling in from my office in Nashua, and I am alone.
Representative Weston, I am here in my office in Plymouth, New Hampshire, and I'm alone. Representative Hunt,
I am in Weekapaug, Rhode Island, which is a fire district of the town of Westerly. And I am in the upstairs farthest bedroom I could be because I do have grandchildren in the house. So hopefully they will not storm the room.
Representative Sanborn, not here. Representative Osborne,
Here at home in Auburn, New Hampshire, alone, and the door is locked, so I should be left alone.
Representative Plummer. John Plummer not here?
He's
No.
here. Representative Plummer, you need to remember to use the *6 to, I mean, the.
You did it.
Representative Plummer, here in Belmont, New Hampshire, in my office alone.
Thank you. Representative Barnes,
You're mute.
unmute.
I am here now. I'm in my office in Salem, and I'm alone.
Representative Patuchik,
Representative Patusik is present at 18 Sunset Avenue, Derry, New Hampshire, upstairs in my hobby room, and I am by myself. Thank you.
Representative Warden,
I am here in my home in Manchester, and I am alone.
Chairman Butler,
I am here in my home office in Hart's location, and I'm alone. Thank you. And we will discuss the bills as they were presented in order in the calendar. And Representative Williams is going to direct the discussion in these bills. When that discussion is completed, then I will call for a motion and we will have a roll call vote. Representative Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I would open discussion on HB 405, which is relative to beer and refillable containers. And I see no hands from the committee. And I see no hands from the attendees. And everyone hopefully is familiar with the hand raising mechanism in Zoom. So if you choose to speak, please use the Zoom hand raise to indicate that you want to speak. So since this is my bill, I will speak on it. This bill is one that has always been quite popular in the House. Has passed the House by a wide margin, 300 votes or more, typically, and but we've always struggled with it on the Senate side. And so this time we decided it wasn't quite ready. It needs to have some additional work done to make it universally attractive. So I would consider this a bill that we should do. We obviously passed a temporary bill around growlers based on the restaurants struggling in the pandemic. And I think that there will continue to be issues for restaurants, and anything that we can do to make restaurants, give restaurants options for additional business would be useful. And this has always been, to me, a bill that's really intended for consumers. It gives consumers the option, if they choose, to get fresh beer as a takeout item instead of buying beer that's been packaged at the factory, which does have a different taste to it. And if you want a particular brand, especially from the smaller breweries, you don't necessarily want to be able to have to drive 100 miles or more to get to that brewery. But if you can get it from a local restaurant or a beer specialty store, there's definitely a benefit. So I will attempt going forward to make this bill more accessible, more interesting to the small companies who have been the main obstacle on the Senate side.
Thank you. And Ms. Marling, I don't see, Representative Hunt has his hand raised.
Just when you didn't see a hand, there's a hand.
Representative Hunt.
I thought it was appropriate to let Representative Williams speak first. So obviously I have supported the concept of growlers in the past, and certainly agree that we would like to do something to offer this opportunity. But I guess I'm a little cautious about today's vote, because when we say recommend or not recommend for future legislation, and it's true there's a blurb that goes with it, what has occurred certainly in this year is a whole myriad of new issues have come up around the concept of the growlers and the benefit to the growlers to, let's say, the restaurant and lodging, not lodging, but the restaurant lobby group. And so the issue being that, boy, it would have been nice if they had it, they could get rid of their beer, right? I would say, I would counter to one comment you made, which is that it's a growler beer is different than what you would get from bottled beer or canned beer, but it's not different than the keg beer. Growler beer is, the terms of when they keg it is whether it's been filtered and fermented, the filtering process that many growlers are not, and that's the reason why they like growlers. Is that it's a much more pure beer and it's not been pasteurized, which is what you're going to get in a keg, which is what you're going to go to the grocery stores. So the long and short of it is, I was okay with retaining this bill with the assumption that we were going to get a chance to work on it and try to figure out something that's going to make this work, and certainly get senators involved, or in terms of trying to figure out what the issue is. But it's not so much the Senate. It's the reality is it's the small custom brewers. So obviously, theoretically, a large brewer would not have a problem with this. They got the kegs, they're pushing them out. They're more than happy to, a retail. And then we haven't even talked about the difference between on-premise licensee versus off-premise licensees. When you say, here we're talking about, you're talking about an on-premise licensee, but there's plenty of off-premises, grocery stores, they would like to have it too, and that's the one that was the big pushback by the commission. worrying about the pipes cleaning, worrying about the controls over. There's, all these myriad of issues that are going on with this bill. So I get down to what I would call the rule of thumb for liquor bills, and that is there's this general demand push for something. Okay, in other words, when it comes to liquor laws, we're mother may I, and we do what people, they say, well, we really want this and we really need this, a need for it. The reality is the growlers is not a problem for anybody to get a growler, and they don't have to go very far to get one. We have, think of the nanos, we got 20 some plus nanos, we got brewers are popping up every day. And so anybody can go get a growler. And frankly, those custom brewers are perfectly happy doing it that way because they make more money if you go buy it from them and not through, putting it in a keg and throwing it to a retail or an off-premise license or on-premise license here, whichever we end up choosing. So I'm at the point now, I don't really see the customer demand for growlers. If a customer wants a growler, they really don't have to drive far to go get one. And so I think at this point, unless there is a great outcry from the small brewers, the people who are actually we would want to benefit to, the small custom brewers, unless there's some cry for them to do this bill, I just think it's time to give growlers a rest for a while, and not bother bringing something in next year because the terms, if you're going to bring the bill in, you're bringing the same language, you're going to have the same problem we had this year or last year, every year. We had a study committee once already, and they didn't come up with anything, right? I mean, there was no resolution. And so, this is an issue that I just think that it at this point, we're better off just leave a sleeping dog lie.
Thank you, Representative Hunt. And I see a hand from the audience. Ms. Marling, can you elevate Mr. Moore into our group?
Sure. You also saw that you have a couple of committee hands.
No, I didn't. Thank you.
That's all right. Representative Patusek was first, and then Representative Van Houten.
And Representative Williams, if you want to continue.
Sure. So I would call on Representative Patusek. He's been waiting the longest, so go ahead.
Thank you, Representative Williams. I've been contacted over this period of time by a couple of the local micro nano brewers. As you know, Dairy and Londonderry have a ton of local brewers, and none of them seem to feel that they really needed this bill. Back in the day when it was started, yeah, but lately and locally, they don't see a need for it. Thank you.
And Representative Van Houten.
Thank you. I tend to agree with the two previous speakers. The issues that were never really resolved when we first heard the bill include things like sanitation. How do we keep the growlers sanitary moving forward? The advent of the popularity of canned beers coming in. So I think the face of the market that we're looking at here, that we're trying to deal with, as Representative Hunt mentioned, really has seen its heyday. And I don't see that moving this bill forward at this time, or at least putting it forward in terms of a recommendation to move it forward, is in the best interests of the group. Thank you.
So I would remind you all that there are 33 states that allow other entities besides the people who produce the beer to fill growlers. You go to New York State, and you can find growler filling stations all over the place, and they don't have issues with sanitation or with concerns from the small brewers. I mean, you guys both mentioned the small brewers. They are actually the ones who have objected, really the only ones who objected to the growler bill in the past, and that was because, as Representative Hunt said, they make more money filling growlers than if they sell their beer in a keg or in a can, because they're getting essentially a retail price for something. But I think that I continue to have people talk to me who are consumers who would like to be able to do this. Representative Hunt says you can get a growler not very far from your home, but that may be true. It depends on where you live, obviously, but that means you're getting it from the closest brewery to you. If you don't happen to like their beer versus someone else's beer, you know, if I live in Wilton but I happen to like beer from Moat Mountain in Ed's area, that means I have to drive, you know, almost 100 miles to get my beer. I'm not going to do that for a growler.
And so Aiden Moore, if you can.
So Representative Abel has his hand up. So we're going to follow the policy of talking to or calling on our reps first and then the audience. I would call on Representative Abel.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that we should recommend this bill for reintroduction next year, considering the fact that there was strong testimony in favor of this. This is a long-term bill. I think at least 3 times this bill has come up before us. And because there were only a few things that were still controversial, and the sponsor believes that he can find solutions to those, I think that we should recommend that he go ahead and do that. And I think the bill will come back whether we recommend it or not. And I would like.
Representative Bartlett. You're muted.
Thank you. I have to agree with Representative Van Houten. I think that there were other issues on this. I do think that particularly with the pandemic and all of the cleanliness issues that are, you know, we're going to be addressing for a long time. I don't think that this one's ready to come back, and I think I'm going to vote against recommending it for further legislation.
Pam, could you promote Mr. Moore so he can speak to us?
Absolutely. He should be on his way. There he is.
Good afternoon, committee members. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. I guess I have more of a question for you, Representative Williams, and I'm not sure for the benefit of the committee. As you may or may not recall, House Bill 405 had a number of issues in it that were of concern to us at the Liquor Commission, such as putting us into the position of kind of almost becoming a product integrity for the manufacturer, training and doing health training for draft line maintenance and a few other things. So I think there were a number of concerns with 405, the way it was drafted. And I guess my question to you, Representative Williams, is it your intention to bring 405, if the committee were to vote to reintroduce this, to bring it back as it currently exists? Or are you going to amend it in some way? And I'm not sure, Mr. Chairman, you may or may not recall that in the last legislative session, House Bill 1717 made it through the Rules Committee to come to the floor, which was a bill that would allow on-premise licensees to sell draft beer if a pandemic existed. That kind of languished. I don't believe it ever made it to any type of vote. But I guess my question, Representative Williams, is it your intention to bring this back as it is currently written?
Sure, happy to answer that question. And by the way, we did vote on 1717 and passed it in the House. I'm not sure where it went after that. I don't think it went through the Senate. But certainly I would not bring it back as written. It needs to be a different bill. It needs to be modified because the reason why it went to interim study is because there were concerns. And I would certainly, I recognize the issues that were added to the Liquor Commission's set of responsibilities were mainly done because there were concerns from the manufacturer side in terms of draft system cleaning and some other things. It's not clear to me that those are legitimate concerns, because having researched how the 33 states that allow growlers to be filled by people outside of the industry, there doesn't seem to be anybody else who is requiring training on cleaning and those kinds of things. But I would certainly, if I bring this back, it won't be the same bill. It'll be substantially different.
And our recommendation for future legislation or not is a general recommendation. I don't think it in any way mandates that the bill come back in the exact form that it currently exists.
Yeah, it's the subject, not the bill itself.
Right. And so, Representative Williams, do you have a motion to make?
Sure, I would move that we recommend House Bill 405 for future legislation.
Thank you. And Representative Weston, when you are ready, if you would call the roll.
You have a second?
Do we need a second?
Maybe. And I will second.
Okay. Vice Chairman Williams.
Yes.
Representative Gidge, not here. Representative Abel.
Yes.
Representative Bartlett. Representative Bartlett.
I thought I.
Nope.
I can't tell which button to push. No.
Representative Herbert, not here. Representative Macbeth.
No.
Representative Van Houten.
No.
Representative Fargo.
No.
Representative Indruk.
Yes.
Representative Weston. No. Representative Hunt.
No.
Representative Sanborn, not here. Representative Osborne.
Yes.
Representative Plummer. Not, is Representative Plummer here?
He is.
He needs to unmute.
Representative Plummer.
With your *6.
No.
That was a no.
That was a no.
Thank you. Representative Barnes.
No.
Representative Patusic.
No.
Representative Warden.
Yes.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yes, and
You missed Representative Butler.
oh, I'm sorry, Chairman Butler.
That's okay. Yes, I vote yes.
So 6 to 9, the motion does not pass.
Do I have another motion?
Not recommended.
Representative Hunt moves not recommended for future legislation. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second it.
Representative Bartlett seconds. And when the clerk is ready, she will call the roll.
Vice Chairman Williams.
No.
Representative Gidge. Not here. Representative Abel.
No.
Representative Bartlett,
Yes.
Representative Herbert,
Not here.
oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Representative Macbeth,
Yes.
Representative Van Houten,
Yes.
Representative Fargo,
Yes.
Representative Indrick,
No.
Representative Weston, yes. Representative Hunt,
Yes.
Representative Sanborn, not here. Representative Osborne,
Yes.
Representative Plummer,
Oh, you just muted yourself. You were unmuted. But back to *6.
Yes.
Representative Barnes,
Yes.
Representative Petusic.
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute. I just put it in the wrong place. Plummer was yes or no?
Correct. It was a yes.
Barnes was yes, and Petusic was yes.
Correct.
Representative Warden,
Yes.
yes. Okay, so
And I will vote no.
I'm sorry, you will vote no. I'll get it. So this is for not recommended. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 nays and 11 yays.
Thank you.
So thank you for that, and I'll bring the bill anyway.
Knew you would.
We knew that.
So we'll move on to House Bill 1300, which is relative to the definition of specialty cider. Who would like to speak on this bill?
Me.
So I'll recognize.
So yes, I am the sponsor of this bill, and I have good news. The primary issue of this bill is no longer necessary. You might remember that I first started out was that the issue was that when we passed allow in-state beverage manufacturers to have a higher content of alcohol, it didn't include out of state. But now we have a new legislation that just got passed, but never came to the committee. We kind of missed out on the fun. But this bill was a Senate bill, and this bill will certainly allow a cider manufacturer to be able to bring in a higher alcohol content from out of state into New Hampshire. So at this point in time, the bill is not necessary. So I move not recommended for future legislation.
Second, Van Houten.
Anyone else like to speak? So we have a motion and a second to not recommend for future legislation. I see no more hands, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And the clerk will call the roll on not recommended on House Bill 1300.
Vice Chairman Williams,
Yes.
Representative Gidge, not here. Representative Abel,
Yes.
Representative Bartlett,
Yes.
Representative Herbert,
Not here.
not here, I'm sorry. Representative Macbeth,
Yes.
Representative Van Houten,
Yes.
Representative Fargo,
Yes.
Representative Indrick,
Yes.
Representative Weston, yes. Representative Hunt,
Yes.
Representative Sanborn, not here. Representative Osborne,
Yes.
Representative Plummer,
He needs to unmute.
Yes.
Representative Barnes,
Yes.
Representative Petusic,
Yes.
Representative Warden,
Yes.
Chairman Butler.
Yes.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15. Yay.
So House Bill 1300 will go on in the calendar as not recommended. And Representative Hunt, you'll do statements on the last two bills. Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to House Bill 613, which is relative to mandatory automobile insurance. And who would like to speak, or is anyone who would like to speak on this particular bill? So there is one hand in the audience. Now that hand's gone. Now
Representative
there's one
McBeth.
hand.
All I see is Representative Macbeth's hand.
Okay, so Representative Macbeth.
Thank you. This is a bill that I would like to see go forward. I think we had compelling testimony from people that had been injured by the fault of an uninsured or underinsured driver in New Hampshire. I know that there was that last minute or poll voting in the House, which I would disregard as far as sincere interest over mandatory insurance. I don't think that members really understood it, although I appreciate the effort to try to gauge interest. But this is a bill I'd like to go forward just as a consumer protection bill. Thank you.
And Representative Bartlett.
Thank you. Representative Macbeth, I really appreciate your support on this one. I don't think we have a motion on the floor, do we?
We do not. And we will at the end of the discussion.
Okay.
All right, this is the work part of the
Okay.
thing, and then we move on to the executive session.
Oh, okay, sorry. I mean, the hard part, I think, for me, you know that I feel strongly that we should not be the only state without mandatory auto insurance. However, with the insurance department not in favor, with the insurance companies not in favor, and the town clerks also coming out in opposition, it's really hard to see how we can do it in this form. I think that there are other times when maybe there's another way we can look into it. But it just feels like New Hampshire has, with this, I think it was 13 times. I don't have my notes in front of me, but I think it's been in front of us 13 times since 1991. In this form, I don't think it's going to move. I think we're going to have enough work next term to keep us all very busy. So I against my better judgment, really, I'm going to say I'm not going to recommend this for future legislation.
Representative Williams, I apparently as a co-host can't raise my hand, so put me in the list, please.
Okay, so Representative Abel first, and then Representative Butler.
Okay, thank you. I have to say that this bill has always, or this issue has always baffled me. I've lived in a lot of states, and mandatory automobile insurance was in every one of them. It seemed to work wonderfully. It prevented a lot of the problems that we heard in terms of testimony from people who had been injured and suffered because they were unable to collect from people who were uninsured. I have to say, I didn't hear a single good, what I thought was a single good reason for why we, when we had testimony before, for why we should keep the system the way it is now. I bet most people, in New Hampshire, a lot of people don't even realize this is the case, and they're very surprised and adversely affected. I'm a very strong proponent that we should have such a law, and I still wait to hear reasons for why we shouldn't do that. And I'm just presenting my point of view. Thank you.
And Representative Butler.
Thank you. Representative Abel, in those states that you have lived and I have lived where it was mandatory, we may not have heard the problems with uninsured motorists, because there was a law mandating it. However, we've also heard in the testimony from several different perspectives that even in states that have mandatory requirement for auto insurance, there are several that have more uninsured motorists than we do. So the problem exists. We may not have heard about it in those states that we lived in that required it. We put this bill in for interim study because I believe there's a real challenge to creating a law, if we are going to mandate it, that is going to be successful. If what we mandate is a minimum coverage of $25,000, which is what is required as a minimum for coverage in many mandated states, then that's not necessarily going to achieve the coverage that some of those people that we heard of are going to need. And they're still going to be in the same situation that they were in terms of recompense for the damages that occurred to them. I don't think that mandatory auto insurance is the answer to the problems that were brought to us. If we have a 9% uninsured population in the state, and in some other states that mandate it, there is a percentage of uninsured motorists that is greater than that, then I don't know that mandatory insurance is the answer. I don't, I will look forward to the solution that the New Hampshire legislature comes up with.
So I would agree with Representative Butler that as the bill was written and rewriting it is a difficult problem, but as the bill was written, it really wasn't going to provide much help for the motorist who is injured by an uninsured motorist, because even if that motorist, the motorist is not likely to choose to, buy $300,000 worth of liability if they're going from uninsured to insured. They're going to buy the minimum, which, as Representative Butler said, would probably be $25,000. And that won't make that much difference in terms of them recovering for their injuries. In fact, they're more likely to benefit from the rule which requires the insurance company to provide uninsured motorist coverage that's the equivalent of the liability coverage that an individual carries. And so people who are concerned about uninsured motorists should have lots of liability coverage, because then if they are struck by an uninsured motorist, they'll get that coverage, which won't pay them for pain and suffering, but will certainly pay them for medical costs. And somebody mentioned, I think maybe Christy mentioned, the town clerks, and that's the way the bill was written. It put a burden on town clerks to be basically enforcing this law. I think that is something that I don't know if that's what happens in other states. It's possible that you have to show proof of insurance to register a car, but it's not something that has been in the process here ever. And so I think it makes it very difficult for people to deal with that. So I think maybe there's a way to do this. I'm not sure what that is. And certainly the way the bill was written, I don't think we can move forward. I would call on Representative Indruk, who hasn't spoken yet.
Thank you, Representative Williams. I certainly appreciate all of the concerns everyone has expressed and recognize that this would not be easy to create a form that would be easily passable and reconcilable between all the different parties. I did just want to, as a representative from a more densely settled area, did want to recognize that there are many individuals, particularly in Nashua, who are pedestrians and do not have auto insurance, and as such do not have that possibility of having an uninsured motorist coverage to their own policy. And it is certainly something that every summer when I see folks out on their bikes and out walking around the streets and people speeding by, to me, I cringe and I think, what happens when one of these poor individuals on their way to work gets into a vehicular accident with a uninsured motorist? And it is certainly something that weighs on my mind, and I see becoming a more pressing issue in this area as we continue to grow and see more and more individuals who are commuting to work by bike or walking. And it is certainly something that weighs on my mind. And I would very much like to see this state join the 49 other states and do what I think is the right thing. However, I recognize this is not an easy task and respect everyone's decision accordingly.
Representative Bartlett.
Thanks. Representative Indrick brings up a really good point regarding coverage under UM for pedestrians or bike riders. I'm just putting in 2 cents regarding, as I know I'm not going to win this battle, but the minimum limits are rarely sold. Their much higher limits are sold right off the bat, because there's not a lot of difference between what you pay for minimum limits than what you pay for higher limits. But I think this is a battle that the way this bill is written, until New Hampshire decides to become more automated, because Massachusetts used to make it much more difficult to prove insurance, and it's all automated now. We're just not there as far as monitoring. So I give up. That's all.
Representative Hunt.
Yeah, so not that I want to pick a fight with you, Chrissy, but no, it's actually the people who cannot afford insurance are going to buy the least expensive one, and they're going to buy the 2550. And I think that ironically in New Hampshire, because we don't have it mandatory, so the people so when someone buys insurance, the insurance agent's going to make them understand that you don't have to buy this, but you're buying it to protect yourself. Don't worry about the other guy. You're worried about yourself, making sure you have enough coverage, make sure you get the benefits that you're going to need if you're in a serious accident. And I think that's the reason why in New Hampshire, we actually have people with higher balances, higher amounts than other states, because that conversation occurs. And the only reason it occurs is because we don't have mandatory auto insurance. And let's face it, if it gets down to making a choice of what you're going to pay for and insurance to buy, what would we rather people be buying? Auto insurance or health insurance? I think I want them to buy the health insurance.
So I see no more hands. Representative Butler.
Thank you.
The executive side.
Yeah, I will move not recommended for future legislation on House Bill 613. And I'm not sure, Representative Bartlett, that will pass, but that is my recommendation.
And I will second that, Representative Williams.
Thank you. And the clerk, when you are ready.
Vice Chairman Williams.
Yes.
Gidge, Representative Gidge, not here. Representative Abel.
No.
Representative Bartlett.
I have to vote no.
Representative Herbert.
Not here.
Not here. Representative Macbeth.
Representative Macbeth votes yes. Well,
It's not recommended, so.
So I vote no. But on behalf of myself and all the other guys out there. Thank you.
Representative Van Houten.
Need to unmute.
No, sorry.
You vote no?
Yeah, no.
Representative Fargo.
No.
Representative Indra.
No.
Representative Weston, I vote no. Representative Hunt,
Yes.
Representative Sanborn, not here. Representative Osborne,
Yes.
Representative Plummer,
Yes.
Representative Barnes,
Yes.
Representative Petusic,
Yes.
Representative Warden,
Yes.
and Chairman Butler.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
8 to 7.
8. 8, 2, 3, 7.
So the not recommended
Passes.
motion passes.
Not recommended passes.
Okay, so we'll move on to House Bill 1320, which establishes a renter's insurance notification requirement. And so we're back in work session mode. Would anyone like to speak on this bill? Representative Bartlett.
Thank you. You know what I'm going to say. I really feel strongly that the tenant's lease should state clearly that the landlord's policy does not cover them for property damage or for liability. That there is no coverage under the policy for the tenant. So I have got to recommend that this be brought forward. We had testimony from tenants that had absolutely no understanding that they did not have insurance coverage, and it affected them when tragedy hit. So I really feel that there should be just one sentence in the lease agreement that says, we don't, there's no coverage for you, and we recommend that you have renter's insurance. Pretty simple. It would affect a lot of people.
Representative Van Houten.
Thank you. While I feel definite sorrow and sadness for anyone who has any kind of a loss, I'm not sure that this type of legislation is necessary, nor does it accomplish the goals of legislation per se. It is more education, and perhaps it should be elsewhere that we educate renters about this. But to put it into a rental agreement is saying that, we don't allow people to understand what they're doing. We don't give them credit for what they're doing. And I also need to just put a quick disclaimer here. When I first spoke on this bill, whenever we had the first work session, I was a landlady, land person, let's go with that. And I no longer am. I simply think that this is something that citizens need to be educated on, and I do agree they need to be educated on this, but I don't believe that legislation is the place for that to happen.
Representative Macbeth.
Thank you, Representative Williams. I support this bill as another consumer rights advocacy bill. I think it's very similar to some of the issues that we had on the storage units contracts that we as a committee rewrote and put in big, bold or colored highlighted terms, particular issues that we thought were important to consumers that they might not realize. And I think I see this as another one of those issues. And I think particularly with the scarcity of rental property in our state, a lot of renters are going to be, doing things quickly and might not be able to get all the education they need. And so I would it's a one sentence, and it's good for both the landlord and the tenant. And I'd like to see it included. Thank you.
Representative Petusic.
Thank you, Representative Williams. I wrote an op-ed piece for the Derry News and the Lawrence Eagle Tribune. The Lawrence Eagle Tribune serves the area of Salem where the fires, et cetera, took place. And most of all the representatives that are sponsors had a chance to read it. I also posted it in Facebook. And to be honest, I did not get any feedback whatsoever, whether positive or negative, on this article. So it was nice that I shared it with the folks, but nobody said we should have a bill for it or a bill against it. Thank you.
Representative Bartlett.
Well, I'm just going to reiterate that landlords don't even know that their insurance doesn't cover their tenants. Only if they do something grossly negligent. And I think that it's protection for the landlords as well. Can I ask you, Representative Van Houten, when you were a landlady, did you have it in your lease?
Oops, you turned it on.
I did not. I'm in my defense, I shouldn't say in my defense. I did inform them that insurance was, that I insured the building itself and not their contents of the building. But
But to just tell them verbally is really not enough. People forget.
Well, I think that that's true, but we're talking about adults who are renting properties here. And I'm really not fighting you on this because I really do believe that people should be educated about their rights and their consumer responsibilities, but I'm just not sure that that's something that should be in the lease.
But how many people understand insurance?
Thank you. I do recall in part of this conversation, I had reached out to the New Hampshire Housing Authority to see if there was a possibility of perhaps them working with New Hampshire Legal Aid to draft a general disclosure sheet similar to the lead paint disclosure sheet that could be distributed with leases, which obviously could take very many different forms and could be required or could be just accessible. And it seems to me that a tool or a resource such as that could really provide the opportunity to educate both landlords and renters and be made readily available, and with the input of New Hampshire Legal Aid really could contain lots of information that could be beneficial. And it seems that might be a way to avoid some of the concern about meddling in rental agreements and specifying particular language which may or may not be appropriate to the particular circumstances.
So I would agree with that. I think it isn't necessarily, I think Representative Van Houten said it isn't really a subject for legislation. I think if we could get an agency like Legal Aid or New Hampshire Housing or someone else to provide education and the distribution of that information, I think it would be useful. But I think putting it into the lease agreement, which is what this bill required, isn't really much help. I don't know how many of you have recently read lease agreements. Maybe you have, Representative Van Houten, if you leased property, but they tend to be fairly long. And depending on where this sits in that lease agreement, the renter may not even see it. I can tell you that people in general don't read long legal agreements because they don't necessarily understand them and they're kind of boring, and they figure that they don't have any choice if they want to do whatever it is that agreement is for, whether it's to lease an apartment or buy a car or whatever. And so they just sign it. And so certainly education so that people are aware of what their responsibilities are and what their liabilities are is useful, but I don't think the way the bill was written, that problem is solved, and I'm not sure that legislation is the appropriate way to do this. And I see Representative Abel's hand. Representative Abel. You muted yourself. Rich, you're muted.
Representative, there you go.
There we go. I've got it. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. With the understanding that what we're talking about, or what we would be voting on, is not the bill that we heard in this year, but instead the concept, I would like to encourage us to recommend that something be done, and it could be as simple as having the landlord pass out a short statement that says, you're not in, we don't insure you. It doesn't have to be in the lease agreement. But if we recommend a bill, then the sponsors would be encouraged to come back and do that. It would be simpler, and I think everybody would like it. So I'm in favor of recommending this bill. Recommending this subject.
And Representative Williams?
Yeah, so as I just said, I don't believe this is the appropriate item for legislation. And the thing that we haven't talked about is what the enforcement mechanism is here. You know, are we going to have the attorney general go after landlords because they don't have the proper information in their lease agreements? I mean, there will be no enforcement. You know, I think I can state that pretty clearly. And so therefore, putting it into legislation, putting it into the RSAs doesn't really make much sense. Again, and certainly I support 100% what Representative Indruk said, which is encouraging somebody to provide education, you know, getting landlords to distribute information. Those are all useful, but, you know, putting in something that essentially requires something to be put into a lease agreement with no teeth, with no enforcement, nobody's going to, you know, be checking those. I don't think it makes sense. So I would move that we do not recommend this for future legislation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Representative Hunt spoke up before Representative Van Houten raised her hand.
I couldn't find the button.
And the clerk will call the roll on not recommended for House Bill 1320.
Vice Chairman Williams,
Yes.
Representative Gidge, not here. Representative Abel,
No.
Representative Bartlett.
No,
I'm sorry. Was that yes or no?
no,
No. Representative Herbert, not here. Representative Macbeth.
No.
Representative Van Houten.
Yes.
Representative Fargo.
yes,
Representative Indruk.
Yes.
Representative Weston, yes. Representative Hunt.
No. No, yes, excuse me. I don't know what I'm talking about. I got confused. Yes.
Representative Sanborn's not here. Representative Osborne.
Yes.
Representative Plummer.
Yes.
Representative Barnes.
Yes.
Representative Patrice.
Yes.
Representative Warden.
Yes.
And Chairman Butler.
Yes.
Oh, just three.
12 yeas, 3 noes.
So not recommended on House Bill 1320 moves forward, and Representative Williams will write a statement.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll move on to House Bill 1464, which was relative to insurance coverage for yoga therapy as an alternative or substitute for opioids. And so we're back in work session mode. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this?
Representative Williams, if I could comment.
Representative Butler.
Thank you. This one is a challenge for me because I have supported and worked with alternative healthcare therapies since early in my career as a nurse. But I don't think that this bill is ready for prime time. I think that there are so many forms of yoga therapy, and there may be some states that are currently covering yoga therapy for certain interventions, but I think we need a lot more understanding and work on this. And others have suggested that maybe there is a way to look at several alternative therapies. So we've covered acupuncture therapy, and certainly physical therapy is covered, and some other interventions, even when for massage, when it is medically required, are covered. But I don't think that there is a comprehensive understanding of alternative therapies and their impact and how they could be covered. What is the process? Acupuncturists have an association and a process for certification, but I don't know that there is that for yoga therapy. So I don't see how we can support this other than to say it is something that needs we need to continue to work for it, but I don't think this bill should be recommended.
Representative Hunt.
Yeah, I was confused, Ed, because I thought you were going to say recommended for future legislation.
I know.
So, yeah, so I just want to make sure everybody stands as someone who's been around for 90% of the mandates that we have passed. Acupuncture is not a mandated benefit. I mean, these even physical therapy. We had some big long debates about the physical therapy is not actually mandated. It's not in the statute. So the first question you always say is has there actually been a therapist or somebody who is recommending yoga therapy and their insurance company, whoever that person had with the patient, refused to pay it? Do we actually know that actually occurred? And I don't think we even got there, because I think we were kind of bogged down in the theory that there wasn't any real certifications yet for yoga profession. So we were kind of like overwhelmed that compared to all our other mandates where everybody's usually licensed and registered, before they come in and look for the mandate. So all I'm saying is that I wouldn't be surprised if there are plenty of people do get yoga therapy that for alternative. I'm sure it is available. I'm sure somebody are getting it, just like they're getting acupuncture and they're getting other things. So I think that for us to even go anywhere, there's a lot more knowledge needs to be gained, or what the issues are out there about whether this is really a problem or not.
Representative Van Houten.
Thank you. I actually have very little to add. I think that the conversations that have preceded my statements now are exactly where I stand. I do see a lot of value to different types of alternative therapies, but the efficacy of value for yoga therapy has not been brought to us. We don't know. We don't see evaluations and studies. We see a variety of different credentialing and licensings among those who administer this type of therapy. And I think we're seeing an evolution of forms. It's becoming a more popular therapy. And I think that they're branching out to dance therapy, dance yoga, and so on. So while I applaud the ability of medicine to go into other areas that can maybe less invasively help people with medical issues, with pains and aches, I just don't think that this bill is something that we can move forward with at this time.
So the sitting on Gelcar now, I see the process of the licensing process in a lot more detail. And one of the things that I think is an issue is that if there isn't a license or a board that somehow certifies practitioners, it'll be a lot more of a struggle to get insurance companies to pay, because insurance companies tend to want to be able to, without them doing the work, to be able to verify that someone is actually providing a service that is useful to the patient, that actually provides some medical relief, and without any process other than just somebody saying, I'm using this practitioner for therapy, that's probably not going to be enough for an insurance company, whether it's something that's mandated or not. They're going to want to see a licensing process. I recall in the discussion around this that there was some talk about a study effort that was going to look at alternative therapies in general, and to try to come up with a mechanism for putting those forward in a more professional structure, with some sort of board of practitioners or something. And it seems to me as though that's where this needs to go. I don't know, it's probable that board or that study never actually finished its work, just like most of those other studies didn't finish their work because of the pandemic. But I think that that's where we need to go before we move forward and try to require one particular alternative therapy.
Representative Williams, before you go on, I would want to ask Ms. Smarling to let the attendees know how they can raise their hand to speak, just to make sure that everybody has that information.
Sure, and I see the sponsor of this bill in the attendees list, and perhaps she'd like to speak on this.
Yeah, I see her as well. And for the attendees, if you're on a PC, if you go down to the bottom of the participants list, if you go down to the bottom of the list where you see all your names for the attendees side, you should see a button that says raise your hand, or else maybe a button with 3 dots on it that indicates more. And so if you don't see the raise your hand at the bottom of the screen of that column, check the more button to see if raise your hand is there. And if you're on the, oh, there's a hand. And look at that, it's Representative Mangiapudi. So I'm bringing her in. I hope that was what you were expecting.
Please do.
And there she is.
Representative Mangiapudi, welcome to Commerce.
We just need to have you unmute yourself. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee, for letting me speak. I hear your concerns. This was done before pandemic, like I would call it BC. And during the pandemic for the last 4 months, telemedicine, teletherapy, and especially stress reduction and depression and anxiety reduction using therapeutic yoga, especially the one from the premier institution from India, has been conducting, and it still goes on every day. And we started with 200 attendees from here. And there are boards, there are ways the yoga and yoga therapy. Yes, there are different modalities or schools of yoga, just like any other dance and other alternatives. And therapeutic yoga backed by scientific research, especially with pain, mental illness, or mental status, done by National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, as well as Harvard Mind-Body Institute, has a lot of backing, and there is evidence-based, and we have to start somewhere. And if this is not the place, this was the second time this was introduced by me. Previous time it went to Health and Human Services with alternative therapies, and I was told that I was trying to boil the ocean with every alternative therapeutic intervention. So, break it down, bring it one at a time. Or, I worked with acupuncture, as well as chiropractors and naturopathy. That was the last bill. And, we went through that. We said, no, this is not the way to do it. Okay. And the insurance companies said, we will, we need some kind of support from legislation in order to see if this is doable pilot. So I'm trying whichever way. And I know that this is a modality that is helpful for many of my constituents. And other than trying to bring it free of charge and, across the ocean, I'm trying to make this mainstream. So if this is not the recommendation, I respectfully take that, and I'll continue to work and make this available, because we are in a crisis. And before the pandemic hit, we were in mental health crisis. And we have 80 people waiting in the ER. And the families ER boarding due to mental illness, and families dealing with that. I'm dealing with phone call almost on a weekly basis, begging for some kind of a relief in the anxiety level. So this is a simple tool that can bring some kind of a relief, at least a coping strategy. It's not a cure-all and end-all and be-all. But if that's not what we are going to look at, that's fine. And I will try my attempt. Thank you for asking me to speak, and thank you for letting me be part of the fly to hear the discussion.
You're muted, Representative Williams.
So would anyone else like to speak on House Bill 1464? I see a hand from Representative Van Houten.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing your expertise to us, Representative Mangiapudi. With due respect to what you're saying, I'm just double checking the bill. This is specific to an alternative substitute for opioids. And I'm not sure that we've been presented with enough information to see that that is an alternative therapy. I totally agree with you. Anxiety, headaches, all sorts of things may well be not cured, but at least addressed by this kind of therapy. And so I just wanted to mention that at this point. And again, I know that you have great insights into this, and I do respect that. Thank you.
Representative Mangiapudi.
Representative Mangiapudi has her hand up again. So would you like to speak again?
She can.
This bill was before the pandemic. I was trying to address just the pain and anxiety due to pain and overdose, because that was the population that was looking for alternative to opioid during when they get started on opioid, to have another way of dealing with it and then gradually ease into it. That was the main reason why I had introduced just for that. And this post-pandemic, during the pandemic, what has evolved is specifically for anxiety reduction and stress reduction during COVID-19. And I can send you guys the studies that has been done with 1,000 people participating over 3 months with just yoga intervention. And, but again, I will bring forth a different bill and with the framework of COVID-19 and mental health, and not specifically focused on pain and pain management, because this was before COVID BC. AC bill would be different after COVID.
Representative Butler.
I would like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I would move that House Bill 1464 not be recommended for future legislation. And if I could just say that even though Representative Herbert isn't here, his commentary when in this discussion was that yoga has been beneficial for people for 5,000 years. And we know that that's the case, but commerce is focused primarily on how we deal with the insurance issues. And there is a long way to go to get yoga therapy, which is obviously beneficial, and many of us agree, to the point of being able to be reimbursable service. So I would move not recommended.
And I would second that motion. And I would recommend Representative Mangiapudi that if you bring something forward next year, that part of it needs to be to create some sort of New Hampshire-based licensing or certification, because I think to get New Hampshire insurance companies to pay for services, either voluntarily or by statute, there has to be some way for them to recognize that that provider is in fact providing a useful service. So I think that level of certification, even though I know that there's national or international certification, I think there needs to be something that's New Hampshire based in order to move that forward. So I'd recommend if you do something that's part of what you focus on. And I see no other hands, so we can go ahead with the vote.
Okay, Vice Chairman Williams.
Yes.
Representative Gidge, not here. Representative Abel.
Yes.
Representative Bartlett.
Yes.
Representative Herbert, not here. Representative Macbeth.
No.
Representative Van Houten.
Yes.
Representative Fargo.
Yes.
Representative Indrick.
Yes.
Representative Weston, yes. Representative Hunt.
Yes.
Representative Sanborn, not here. Representative Osborne.
Yes.
Representative Plummer.
Yes.
Representative Barnes.
Yes.
Representative Patusek.
Yes.
Representative Warden.
Yes.
Chair Butler.
You're
Chair
muted,
Butler.
Representative Butler.
Unmute.
Somebody had called up from the downstairs office, so I muted myself. Sorry. Yes.
Okay, 14-1.
Could I
No,
just
for-
ask who seconded that?
Williams.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to House Bill 1697, which is relative to prescription drug discount prohibition. And is there anyone who would like to speak on that bill?
Representative Butler has a hand up.
Thank you. There were a variety of bills to work on reducing the cost of prescription drugs, this being one of them. And copay coupons and various coupon programs, I think, are still problematic. However, House Bill 1280 passed a variety of efforts at decreasing the cost of prescription drugs. And that has gone through the entire process, and the governor has signed it. I think we are at a point where we maybe need to take a breath and see what the pieces of 1280 do, the reduction in insulin costs, the EpiPen bill, the prescription board, affordability board, the cross-border efforts. And so unless others make a better argument, I think at this point, it was a good idea, but not something that should move forward.
And Representative has her hand up.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Williams and Chair. What is your name, Butler?
George.
This bill, this issue, I appreciate you saying let's take a break. This is an issue that we really do need to come back to. So I'm going to accept that maybe this first section of our, first year of the session, that we need to let it go. But the distortion that these discounts do cause in the market is something that has to be addressed. And I really feel like it's a good cause before it's time, before we really could educate the people that are going to get hurt initially by removing it. So I do appreciate your efforts in this. They are issues that I know a lot of us will carry forward and continue to look at. And thank you for tying it in and talking about the changes in 1280. We'll watch that. But your efforts in this area, they've educated me and a lot of people. So, good work, and let's continue to consider it. Thank you.
And Representative Abel.
Yes, thank you. Since there was a committee, a study committee set up last year, I want to ask a question of whether we have any knowledge of whether that committee is in fact still studying these issues, because the report is supposed to be coming this fall, and it seems like we shouldn't be recommending or not recommending when that study may come out differently than what we would vote on. I mean, is there a way to say not give a recommendation? If
No,
not, then I guess we can't.
We need to do one or the other.
Okay.
It certainly doesn't prohibit anything to come from a study committee. I think you're going to find that study committees, none of them have really been meeting since March.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else? So I recognize the absence of Representative Muscatel, who was a co-sponsor on this bill and worked on it very hard. And unfortunately, the next time we hear from him, he'll probably be a legislator in California and not back in New Hampshire. But
maybe. But Representative Fargo wrote the blurb in our last iteration, and I'm wondering if you would make a motion, Representative Fargo.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to not recommend moving forward on this. And I do want to say, though, I remember a lot of discussions on this and how important it is for us to try to curb the costs. But my big concern at the time, and still is the impact at the pharmacy for people right now, especially during the pandemic and things like that. It's a very difficult, it's going to hurt a lot of people. So we have to find a balance. And I appreciate what you're saying about seeing what the rest of this legislation is going to provide and being more measured. And I do think we need to go there. I just don't think this is the right time. So with that said.
Second. Is there a second?
Representative Hunt. And the clerk will call the roll on not recommended on House Bill 1697 when she is ready.
Vice Chairman Williams?
Yes.
Representative Gidge, not here. Representative Abel? Representative Abel? Representative Abel? Representative Abel?
He's not muted and
Is his internet stuck?
No.
He's muted. Well, now he's unmuted.
Rich, can you hear us?
Representative Abel?
I think he can.
You have to call him on his phone.
Want me to give him a call?
That would be good. And if we could continue
right,
and
we'll
come back to him.
Representative Bartlett?
Yes.
Representative Herbert, not here. Representative Macbeth?
Yes.
Representative Van Houten?
Yes.
Representative Fargo?
Yes.
Representative Indrick?
Yes.
Representative Weston? Yes. Representative Hunt?
Yes.
Representative Sanborn, not here. Representative Osborne?
Yes.
Representative Plummer?
Yes.
Representative Barnes?
Yes.
Representative Patusek?
Yes.
Representative Warden?
Yes, and I'm leaving after this vote, so thank you all. Bye.
Chairman Butler?
Yes.
And again, Representative Abel?
Hello?
Yes. How do you
Hello?
vote?
Oh, I just called and spoke to.
Hello? I'm not getting anything, Roberta. Sorry. Phone isn't working. Hello?
Just called
I'm
and
not getting anything.
spoke to his wife, I believe, a woman in his house, and
Yeah.
she talked to him, and that might have been her
Calling him.
calling him.
Representative
I can't,
Abel, how do you vote?
I don't know what's happened here, but I'm not getting anything.
All right, we can hear you now. Can you hear us?
Oh, give a finger up or down.
It says,
Representative Abel, we're voting.
There it is. He's voting.
Hey, thumbs up.
Good. Thank
Okay.
you.
2, 4, 6,
15
oh, what
0.
happened?
15. That's 15 yeas, no nays, 15 to 0.
Thank you.
So we'll move
It's
on to
just-
the last item on today's
Lost the town somehow.
meeting.
Everything.
And that would be HB 1215, relative to the installation of solar energy systems in condominiums and homeowners association. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this bill? So I have been the victim of the homeowners and condominium and homeowners committee for a while now, and I would say that this is a very difficult thing to do, to make a change in the
When I
condominium
picked it
law.
up, it was nothing.
To be able to do something like this. The same issue that comes up in almost every issue of condominium law is who enforces it. You know, so if somebody wants to be able to put solar panels on their roof and the association doesn't let them, you know, are they going to go to Superior Court and spend several $1,000s to be able to get the permission to do that? And then the other issue, which we discussed at length in the hearing about this, is what happens if the roof is shared, which is true in a lot of condominiums, or the ground is shared. It's common area and not belonging to one particular apartment or condominium. In those circumstances, who's allowed to put the solar panels on what space, and what happens if the roof leaks because somebody misinstalled the solar panels? I think there's just a lot of issues around making a rule that allows someone to do something like this when other people disagree. It's shared space, and so you need to have agreement among the residents in order to do these kinds of things. And I see Representative Van Houten's hand.
Thank you. As a condominium owner and resident, there are several issues that really come up here. The bill really was the beginning of something, but not the end of something. There's a great deal to be looked at. One of the major issues, I think, is the percentage. I believe 50 simple majority for this. And I know that in my association, there are lots of issues that are coming up with the COVID issues. The amenities here were not opened, and there was a real hullabaloo about, you know, why can't we, who can vote, and things of that sort. So I think the complexities of this bill have been brought home to me even more fully now that we're looking at those kinds of things. Also, condominium law is still relatively new, and I think this might be something that should be referred back to. I think it's mentioned in the blurb, or in the written aspect of this committee to study the laws relating to condominium and home owners associations. Excuse me for stumbling through that. I think there's a lot more work to be done on this. I absolutely applaud the idea of solar energy and of giving access to that. But right now I'm talking to you from the bottom floor of an 8-unit condominium building. And if I wanted to have solar energy, I don't know how I would be able to access that. Freestanding condo buildings probably have a better opportunity to do that, but nevertheless, there are issues of aesthetics, for instance, that people are concerned about. The long and short of it is, I think the idea of solar energy certainly is valid and worth looking at, but this bill, before it's ready to really go anywhere, needs a great deal of fine tuning and a great deal of contemplation as to how this should be brought forward.
Thank you. Representative Bartlett.
Hi, thank you. I'm going to just reiterate some of what Representative Van Houten said. The thing that concerns me is the simple majority vote. to get to 51%, which changes the bylaws just for this one issue, I have a problem with. I do
No,
recognize
it's not letting me hear anything.
I do recognize that 2/3 or 3/4 majority vote is very difficult to come to on many condominium associations, particularly the larger ones.
I don't know.
I have a problem with their, just going to a simple majority just for this one issue. Even though I think that solar energy certainly is important, that we use alternative energies, I just don't think, I think this bill has so many problems. I can't support it as far as recommending future legislation.
The
Pam, there
volume
are two
thing
hands,
here.
two hands in the attendees group.
Right, Gary Daddario and Dean Lennon have their hands.
Right.
Promote Mr. Daddario first.
Sure.
Hi,
Daddario, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Am I being broadcasted right now?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this. For those who don't know me, my name is Gary Daddario.
Oops. Sorry, that was me trying to bring him in. So if he had his video.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. You're back now.
Okay. So I'm an attorney who represents associations in New Hampshire. And at the moment, I am speaking on behalf of the Community Association Institute's Legislative Action Committee for the state of New Hampshire. My issue with this proposal is that condominiums are creatures of statute. They exist only because governing documents are drafted that create them and bring them into existence. And those documents are then recorded as public records at the Registry of Deeds. So everyone who purchases a unit at a condominium association does so not only on a voluntary basis, but they do so presumably with knowledge of these condominium documents and any restrictions that they contain. And so for that reason, I've said this before, but I'll say again, whenever I see a proposal that would in the law start out as this does, with language notwithstanding any greater vote requirement in a condominium instrument or bylaws, I become frightened that we're probably not doing a good thing, because these documents exist. They are what creates the condominium in the first place. Unit owners buy their condominium and choose to live with these restrictions. And then to the extent that the law would say, well, we're going to set those restrictions aside, I think we're sort of setting the stage for problems. Other than that, I think I would just reiterate some of the points that have been made, which is that in an association, unit owners typically do not own the outside of the building. They don't own the roof. They don't own the grounds. And so a number of problems arise to the extent that unit owners would be allowed to circumvent the association's normal voting standards, and on this lesser basis of a simple majority vote, start to try to claim the ability to put things in those spaces. The leaky roof is an issue. The notion of what happens when we run out of roof space and there are still unit owners who want to have solar, or what happens if unit owners disagree about solar that gets placed on the ground. What happens when someone puts a solar panel in place and then sells their unit and moves away? These are all questions that, to me, reflect the fact that association living just really isn't the right environment to undertake actions like this. And so we're not against solar. We recognize the value of it, but it seems that to the extent it's a priority for an individual, that individual probably needs to be living in a different sort of environment than an association environment where the outside spaces are all shared and not under one's own ownership.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Pam, could you promote Mr. Lennon so that he can speak?
Sure.
Mr. Lennon, welcome to Commerce, and you are muted.
Can you unmute yourself, Mr. Lennon? There you go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the promotion there, Representative Williams. And thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am also on the CAI New Hampshire Legislative Action Committee with Gary. And I don't want to reiterate what everyone has said, but I would certainly support the comments of Representative Van Houten. And my major concern, like Gary, would be the 51% vote changing what is in almost every set of docs would be a minimum of 67%. And at times 75%. And the issue that, you know, when you're talking about installation, typically on the roof, it's almost certainly common area unless it's standalone townhouses or single family homes within a condo. But, you know, let's say the installation goes bad and there's a roof leak. Who's paying for that? What is the basis for assessing the damages? What if the panels are installed and the roofs need to be replaced 2 years later? That owner is going to be fit to be tied when he has to take his panels off at his own expense and put them back on. So there's a whole host of issues when it comes to community living with solar panels. I have solar panels myself. They're fantastic. They pay for themselves, but those issues, I don't live in a condominium or a community association. So there's just a whole host of issues that are at play there. And then the issue of aesthetics too. Some will have them, some will not. A lot of people move to community associations because of the uniform aesthetics. But thank you for your time today.
And Representative Macbeth.
Thank you, Representative Williams. So I find this issue fascinating, and I think it is extremely important. I related a little bit to the prohibition that we've heard about before of the ham radio antennas on the outside of condominiums. And I really, I think that we don't want to, I don't want to admit that if you want a ham radio or if you want solar panels on your residence, you can't be part of a community living situation. So I do think there are issues within this particular bill that, you know, particularly the changing of the percentage for voting and others that, you know, aren't, I'm not comfortable with, but, you know, we're not necessarily just looking at this bill. We're looking at the idea of, you know, freely contracting, you know, what you might like in your collective. So I really, I guess I'm just saying, I like the issue. I support moving forward with it. It's not a ball I'm going to pick up, but I just, I do see some value in discussing it. Thank you.
And Representative Butler.
Thank you. I just want to encourage those people in, is it CAI, and folks who are advocates for condominium living, that there have been issues in the past that have come to the legislature that have needed to have legislative involvement. This may or may not be one, but I wouldn't just assume that because the associations feel that it's a threat in some ways, that it isn't something that if enough owners come to the legislature and raise the priority, that it isn't something that will continue to be discussed and considered and maybe someday voted upon. This bill may not be it, and I agree that it should not be recommended, but I bristle at the idea that it's not something that the legislature shouldn't consider now or in the future.
And I would agree with Representative Butler that it shouldn't just that condominiums and other and homeowners associations shouldn't operate just on the basis of their founding documents, because those documents are often written for the benefit of the developer. And when the developer leaves and the residents take over, they're often not rewritten. And so those documents aren't necessarily optimized for clean and straightforward operation, which is why we have the condominium law in our statutes, because there have been issues over the years, and some of that condominium law is really about development, but a lot of it is about operation. So I would agree that this isn't necessarily a bill to move forward, but that having the state provide some regulation for condominiums and homeowners associations is important. So I see Mr. Daddario has his hand up again.
Okay, you can speak if, there you go.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to quickly apologize. I think it may have been some of my statements that led to the perception that there was a suggestion made that the legislature not be involved with condominiums. And I apologize if I was not clear. I did not mean to be stating something quite that bold. Certainly the legislature has been involved. The Condominium Act exists other than an association's individual documents. It's the primary source for us in explaining how condominiums need to operate. And I'm sure that there will be legislative involvement with condominiums in the future as well. We as a group, in fact, have sought the legislature's assistance in trying to pass a bill that would allow associations to foreclose when they need to on unpaid assessments. That's not the topic for today, but it's an example of us understanding that the legislature absolutely is involved. For the most part, I would just tend to shy away from, as is the case with this bill, legislative language that says, notwithstanding the contrary language in the documents. So in other words, I think that when the legislature speaks on issues for condominiums and puts something into law, I think it would be great if it were an addition to what exists or an explanation. But to the extent that it conflicts with what associations are otherwise doing, then it might set the stage for problems. And here, it's not even so much an issue of the actual subject matter solar. It's this issue that they would change the voting requirements that otherwise exist in a community. And as has been said by others, to the extent that those voting requirements serve just fine for every other issue, they should probably carry through. But in any event, again, I just wanted to apologize for any confusion and note that we certainly do see the legislature as being part of condominium governance.
Thank you, Mr. Daddario, and I want to thank you for your participation in the Condominium Law Committee, for your frequent attendee, and we appreciate your input, and I hope that we get to meet again at some time in the near future. Representative Bartlett.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Please.
I'd like to make the motion that we not recommend this legislation to go forward.
Thank you. Is there a second? Representative Fargo is making a second on not recommended on House Bill 1215. And when the clerk is ready, she will call the roll.
I'm ready. Vice Chairman Williams.
Yes.
Representative Gidge, not here. Representative Abel.
Yes.
Representative.
You're here.
I lost the sound. It came back. I don't know why.
Magic.
Representative Bartlett.
Yes.
Representative Herbert, not here. Representative Macbeth.
Yes.
Representative Van Houten.
Yes.
Representative Fargo.
Yes.
Representative Indrup.
Yes.
Representative Weston, yes. Representative Hunt. Representative Hunt.
Sorry, yes.
Representative Sanborn, not here. Representative Osborne.
Yes.
Representative Plummer.
Yes.
Representative Barnes,
Yes.
Representative Petusic,
Yes.
and Representative Warden is not here. Chair Butler.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 14-0.
Thank you. 1215 is not recommended, and Representative Bartlett will write a statement to that effect. This is a difficult process in some respects, but I think it went really well. Have we missed anything, Ms. Smarling, that needs to be dealt with before we say goodbye?
No, I think you are in great shape and that worked well.
Thank you very much.
Can I just say something? I can't be here tomorrow, so I would like to say goodbye and stay well to everybody on the committee. I'll miss you, and hopefully I'll be back next year.
And we'll see you on veto day.
Oh, of course. That's right.
And you see Representative Fargo has her hand up.
Yeah, if we made a motion and we're gonna do a committee report, do we send that, I would assume, to Ed, Kermit, and Pam?
That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll do this again tomorrow. 8 more bills.
That's right.
Thank you
Same
very
time,
much, and
tomorrow afternoon.
thanks for everyone who attended.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Pam and staff.
Yes.